Welcome to the Collide Kids podcast, hosted by Christen Clark. This is a show for kids and families. You are going to meet new people and have fun while you listen. Let's do it!
Hey, y'all, welcome to the Collide Kids podcast. I'm your host, Christen Clark. The Collide Kids podcast is a show for kids and families where we learn together how life and faith collide. I am so glad that you're listening today. Thank you so much for being here and spending this time with me. If this is your first time listening, I just want to say welcome. I am really glad you're here, and I hope you keep coming back for more. Be sure to listen to the end of every episode. That's where we have the kids-only segment where kids just like you get to be on the podcast. Well, since I started the podcast, I have taken off time in the summer. You know, everything I've learned about growing and maintaining a podcast, it's all about consistency, about putting out shows and content all the time. And I have been consistent in putting out shows, but I believe that God has called me each year to take a break and have a time of rest and reflection, just like a Sabbath, just like a Sunday afternoon nap. That's what we're doing, but during the year. It really is a Sabbath. It's a time to rest and reflect and focus more time for my family. But most importantly, it's a time to trust God will take care of everything and that He will provide. So that's what I'm doing. And I am really thankful that you have been listening this whole season. I hope you've enjoyed season 6, and I've got some fun things planned for season 7. So don't go away. Go back and look through all the old episodes and see if you can find something you haven't heard before. I'm sure you're going to find something you'll enjoy until we come back in August. Well, today's episode is the last episode of season 6, and who better to conclude this season than my friend Sheik Mozart. Sheik is the creator of Kids Church Party Music. He's the creative director of Church Visuals and the mind behind Big City Studios. With over 15 years of experience in kids and youth ministry, Sheik is passionate about communicating the gospel in the most engaging and impactful ways possible, and he loves to make the Bible come alive with a unique blend of visuals, music, and storytelling. Sheik was originally born in Brazil and currently lives in Central Florida. I cannot wait for you guys to hear this conversation with my really good friend who has really cool glasses, Sheik Mozart. Well, Sheik, I am so excited to have you on the Collide Kids podcast today.
I am excited to be here. Thrilled.
I know. This is so fun. I love when I get to interview my friends. We're friends because we both have cool glasses. That's our connection, right?
Yeah, we're part of the Cool Glasses Facebook group.
That's right. That's right. Something like that. Yeah. Would you just introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
So my name is Sheik Mozart. I do a lot of things. I love to create. I love to tell stories. I think that's kind of the thing that I think about. If I were to define myself in one word, it would be like storyteller. Because I love stories, all the impact of them. I love specifically the story of Jesus and getting to share the Bible with people. And I try to do that in ways that are as engaging and fun and exciting as possible, primarily through video and through animation and motion graphics design, and then also through music. You know, those are kind of two big passions of mine that combine into this idea of telling the story and sharing the story of Jesus.
That's really cool. I love that. And I love that you're so creative in all those different fronts, musically and then visually. It's just really fun. So this is going to be a lot of fun to talk to you today. But before we get into that, because this is a show for kids, I always make my guests tell me a joke. So do you have a joke for us today?
Well, I've prepared some material. There's a kind of an inspirational book that I have on my desk at all times, just for those moments where, I need a little bit of a boost.
Okay.
I don't want to tell you the name of the book outright, but I do have a riddle that will help to elucidate the name of this book.
Okay.
And that riddle is this: what's invisible and smells like bananas?
Invisible and smells like banana. I don't know.
Yes, that would be monkey farts. Monkey farts. So,
which is the name of your book.
which is the name of the book. Yes, yes. So, I thought I'd share a passage here.
Okay.
But you know what? Let me give you a couple of options so that you can kind of help guide this. It's an interactive experience. So, I have 4 outstanding fart jokes. Okay.
Okay.
5 classic chicken jokes.
Okay.
Or 3 a blank walks into a blank jokes.
Ooh. Could you give us like one of each?
Yeah, I can do that. That's a good idea.
Okay. Yeah. Because I feel like kids are going to be mad at me if I don't pick the fart jokes, but I want to hear the chicken joke too. So see what you got.
Okay. What's invisible, smelly, and hangs in a museum?
Oh, I don't know.
Fart work. Again, this is very very educational material. Fart work.
Instead of artwork. It's
Right.
Oh,
right.
gosh.
Yeah. Let's do a chicken joke now.
Okay.
So of course there's a classic, why did the chicken cross the road to get to the other side?
Mm-hmm.
What do you call a chicken at the North Pole?
Ooh, I don't know.
Lost. It's lost.
True.
It's a lost chicken.
Lost chicken. What? Too far?
Is chicken soup good for you?
Yes.
Not if you're a chicken.
Ooh, that's true.
Right?
That's true. That's good. That's good. I like that.
Okay, and then how about a blank walks into a blank joke?
Okay.
Okay, a man walks to a bar and says, "Ow."
Yes, that's true. That hurts.
A pig walks into a restaurant. I didn't read this in advance, so
Okay. Okay.
A pig walks into a restaurant and orders 10 sodas. He drinks them all, one right after the other. When he finishes the last one, the waiter says, "Don't you need to go where the bathroom is?" The pig says, "No, I go wee, wee, wee all the way home."
Nice.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. I like that.
That's the winner.
A great book. All right, I'm gonna have to put
Yes.
that book in the show notes. Is that available on Amazon, you think?
Yeah, it should be available on Amazon. Yeah, I mean,
All right. You didn't write it, did you?
No, I did not. I wish. Yeah, I got this like 15 years ago or something like that. Maybe
Okay.
not quite. And it's just
Good.
always, for whatever reason, it's always with me.
I really like that that's the inspirational book that you keep on your office desk.
Yeah.
Most people have like War and Peace and My Utmost
Right.
for His Highest, and you
Or-
have Monkey Farts.
Some would say this is my utmost for his highest. This is the joke book, my utmost for his
You
highest.
need it. Sometimes you need a joke. And I think
Yeah.
God is pleased with that. I think God.
That's right.
I think
That's right.
God likes
This
jokes.
is like it's like chicken soup for the soul. Remember those? Except it's
Monkey Farts for the soul. That's what
monkey
this should
farts.
be.
Yes.
I love it. Well, let's talk a little bit about your creativity. And I love that you have so many things surrounding you on your desk to inspire this creativity. So you do a lot of things with graphics. You have a podcast.
Yes.
You do a lot of things with a group called Church Visuals. Will you share just a little bit about what your job is and how you got started in that?
Sure. So for Church Visuals, I am the creative director of our ready-made library, which is all the products that go on our website. So it's like countdowns and game videos and just, all sorts of different media and video and graphics that churches would show on Sunday mornings whenever they have services or activities or any of that. So I kind of help to define what those products look like visually. I work with our designers and our video people to kind of bring those ideas to life. I kind of give them the things that they need to pull that together. And then I'm also one of our designers and video guys. So I kind of do both at the same time. And I've really just been doing that since as far as I can remember. When I was like 12 or 13, I got a copy of Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator, and these are graphic design programs. And this was like way before YouTube, so I didn't have any tutorials. So I would go into the software and just play, and just kind of create and try to bring ideas to life, and so doing that for years and years and years. Eventually, I got to a point where it's like, hey, I enjoy this and I can do it. And then when I was about probably 15, 16. I started animating and I started editing videos and stuff like that, which it's funny because when we talk about that now, everybody has all that software like at their fingertips, but back in the day, it was very difficult to get access to it.
Yeah, that's cool. And so how did you get started in that? Like, how did you start discovering that you wanted animation and visual stuff to be part of your job? We'll be right back after this. You know, raising kids in the digital age isn't easy, but Bark Technology makes products that help parents keep their kids safe online and in real life. They have an app, a phone, and a home device that lets families set parental controls on their internet-connected devices. I love the app because it helps us manage screen time and blocks websites and apps we want our kids to avoid. It also sends alerts and gives us the ability to monitor texts and social media and even track your child's location. Visit bark.us to learn more about how you can keep your kids safe online. Use the code COLLIDEKIDS to get 15% off your subscription of the Bark app.
I loved it all as a kid. I was up every Saturday morning watching cartoons, and I loved the world of video and animation and cartoons, movies, music so much, that it just, I think in some ways it was kind of built into me. My dad actually was also kind of a DIY video person. We used to go to this small Brazilian church. There was like no staff, but he kind of decided that he was going to be the video guy. So he bought a camera. He built this rig on wheels, and he would film every service. And this is kind of a sore point in our relationship with my dad. My dad on the weekends, he'd want me to catalog all the VHSs of the service and like write out time codes and everything.
Oh, wow.
And so I did one. I was like, Dad, I can't do that ever again. But, so in some ways, I guess that was kind of ingrained to me as a kid through him. But I was always so fascinated with that world. So I think it was one of those things where I was going to find it one way or the other,
Yeah, that's really cool. And so you're doing that now where you're building out these like countdown videos and games and cool video reels and things like that for churches, which is really great because I think a lot of churches are starting to really realize how important that stuff is and how it keeps people engaged, especially young people and kids and things like that. Right. So all those things that kids see on Sunday mornings, if they have videos in their area, someone is out there putting that together and designing that. So that could be you someday. You could be out there making something for your church. So I think that's really great that you did that. You're also creating music. Can we talk a little bit about your music? Tell us how you got started in that.
Yeah. It all kind of happened around the same time. So when I was like 13 or 14, this is another thing. My mom was a singer. She played piano. She was on the worship band at our church. She was one of the worship leaders. So we always had that going in the house as well. And my mom was like, weirdly enough, passionate about like kids choir music. Yeah. And so we were always listening to kids choir music in the car. She loved it, So when I was like 13 or 14, I started listening to hip hop music, which that like kind of changed my whole world, And so a year or two later, I started writing lyrics, and I found a program that let you produce beats and make music and stuff. And around the same time, I started learning how to play the piano and the drums and the guitar and all that stuff. And just after a little while, it all just kind of started coming together, And so then to be able to pair visuals with music has always been really fun, to be able to tell the story in all forms of media all at once. It's just fun. I love it.
What kind of music do you like to create? Like, what's your favorite thing to do?
I like to create music that is kind of hip hop and urban inspired with a little bit of like Latin. I don't want to say soul. I feel like that I'm way more American now than I am anything else. But but stuff that is like catchy and fun and connects with kids and families. That's kind of, that's where I feel like my sweet spot is in all of it. It's almost like I think about the music that I would have loved to to have heard as a kid. And
Mhm.
with videos, the same thing. Like I think about the content that I would have loved to engage with as a kid. And that's really what I'm making now.
That's cool. So tell me a little bit about the music you have right now.
So I started publishing music just about 2 years ago. I put out a couple like Christmas songs, and then I've always wanted to have a short album, a small album of songs that are like kids' church songs,
Mhm.
but harken back to some of the songs from when I was a kid that were not, I wouldn't call them worship songs, but they were like Bible songs, or
Mhm.
they were just kind of fun songs. And I remember, I don't know if this is a real memory, if I dreamt this, but there was a song when I was a kid that was like, hallelujah, 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 praise you, the Lord. And
Uh-huh.
then, people would stand up.
Yeah.
I remember us doing it in like our adult sanctuary service. That can't be real, right?
I think it could be. That could be.
Okay.
I think we did it in my church one time when I was a kid.
Yeah. And then like one hour, like the men stood up, and then
Yes.
yeah. So, stuff like that. I love that stuff so much. And when I think about my spiritual journey, those songs kind of created a space for me to interact with the Bible, but to do it
Mhm.
in such a fun way, like Father Abraham is another one of those songs
Yeah.
that you really, when I was a kid, I didn't even think about it from any sort of spiritual, I didn't make any spiritual connection to it, and it wasn't
Right.
until later that I was like, oh, Father Abraham was Abraham from the Bible. And yet I was interacting with him. I was learning, I was having fun. And so that
Mhm.
really created a safe space for me as a kid, and
Yeah.
as a kid in church. So to be able to kind of replicate some of that feeling, some of those types of songs, so I put out a short album of 4 songs, the most popular of which is a little song called Hee Haw, I'm a Donkey, which,
Yes.
is just taking on a
Great
life of its
song.
own.
Yes.
Um, but it's stuff like that, and since then I put out other songs and music that are kind of in that vein as well. My goal this year was to put out one song every week, and I made it about 5 weeks. Then I was like, no, that's too much.
Can't do it.
That's way
That's
too
a
much.
lot. Yeah, that's a
It's
lot.
a lot. Yeah. So I was waking up at like 4 in the morning every day and working on music, and it just was not a sustainable lifestyle.
Right. So you have Hee Haw, I'm a Donkey. What are the other songs on your album?
On that first album, it's the first song was Here to Party, which is just, we're here to party. It's Sunday morning. The second song was I Got My Bible, and then which is, very similar to the old Bible song,
Yeah.
or I am a CHRICIN.
Yes.
And then Hee Haw, I'm a Donkey, and then the last one was called Resurrected, which is more of like a chant song, and it was I released the album right before Easter of 2023.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, so it was, they were kind of Easter-ish songs.
I like
Yeah.
it. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you're right. Like we had a lot more of those Bible songs back then. I don't know that kids get a lot of those right now. Where
Yeah.
I feel like as a kid's worship leader, I would always try to include things that they're going to hear on, K-Love or on Christian radio,
Right.
or something they're going to hear in big church, because I wanted them to associate the things that they're learning and that could stick with them. Because I believe when kids hear something as a kid, it sticks with them way longer than if
Yeah.
they hear it as an adult. So like, we're talking about songs that we heard maybe 4 or 5 times when we were, 6 years old,
Yeah.
and we can still remember it and still remember standing up in big church with all the adults singing hallelujah,
Yeah.
hallelujah.
Maybe
Yeah.
if that actually happened.
Or if you dreamed it.
Yeah, I think music is so powerful, and I think that an issue that existed in kids ministry maybe 15 years ago was that I think that we went overboard. All the songs were so fun, and it almost felt like we didn't believe that kids could understand what worship was,
Right.
And so I think that rightly so, we made this shift as a culture, like, hey, kids need to understand how they can access God's presence, how they can worship God at their age, and wherever they are, whatever they're dealing with. So I love the route that worship has taken in kids
Mhm.
ministry. At the same time, I do miss some of that stuff, and I think part of it too. My goal was to make these kinds of songs and maybe a little bit less cheesy than what we would have heard in the past.
Yeah.
To give it a little bit more of a hip hop vibe, so that maybe it's a little cooler.
Yeah. And it makes it approachable too, because it's not
Right.
super deep. It's something that kids can enjoy and get excited and jump like it's a party, or hee
Right,
haw
yeah.
like a donkey or whatever. So it's something they can
Yeah.
really enjoy and also enjoy the music.
Sure.
And speaking of singing in big church, so when I was a kids worship leader, we had the children's choir sing in big church, and they asked us to sing a couple of the praise songs that the adults were going to do, and then we would do our kids choir songs. And so
Yeah.
I was on the praise team, and one of the songs that they did was something that we were doing in kids worship. It was Leaning on the Everlasting Arms, which is a hymn. It's a great hymn. And I'm
Yeah.
like, can we do the kids version of this, which is a little bit more upbeat? And we also do the motion where every time it says leaning, we're all going to lean to the side.
Yeah.
And
That's fun.
And so they were like, let's do it. And so I got to introduce the song, and I invited the entire congregation to lean with us when we did that, when we said leaning on the everlasting arms. And the picture that they took like pictures from that Sunday and posted on social media. And there were two guys that were on the praise team, and they went so full out on their lean. They looked like they broke their back. Like, I was like, that's incredible. They went all out. And I love that they did that for the kids. And I think adults enjoy that too, when they can move a little bit, with it. So I think that's cool when we cross over.
Right. It's a way for generations to connect.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I try to make music that's like kids will love, but hopefully their parents won't hate it, so that there is.
Yes. As a parent, I appreciate that, because there's definitely music that my kids listen to. I'm like, after this one, we can't listen to it 10 more times.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we're going to throw that cassette out.
Yes, for sure.
I imagine you guys are listening to it on cassettes.
If I had a cassette player, man, I would. I used to rock that when I was a little kid, though.
Did you ever have that cassette that had like a little aux cord that would plug into like your CD player?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I turned 16, I had a really old Honda Accord that had a cassette player. So I'd have that cassette you plug in that had the cord to plug in my iPod.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
I feel really old right now.
My first car was a 1989 Nissan Pulsar, and this is like well into this century. This was nowhere near 1989. So, so I had to do the same thing on my iPod video.
That's awesome. And then when I was a little kid, I had a big boombox, and I remember laying on the floor beside my boombox in the living room, because that's where we got good reception. And I'd have my finger on the trigger, and as soon as a song on the radio came on that I liked,
yes,
Amy Grant pops on, I hit that record button, and I recorded on my cassette tape that I could. Yeah. So I made my own mixtapes as a kid.
Yeah. So when I was 14, my mom bought me a karaoke machine. And that was like, that was what I wanted so much. And so then I would record. That was like my first studio. I'd find like just instrumentals of things and then record myself, rapping. Or what I would do too, and my sisters would make fun of me, is I would record like songs with the vocals on it and just do ad libs on top of those songs. And then my sisters would be outside the room listening to it. They'd be like, "You're such a nerd."
I love that. But it comes up almost every episode. And I love this, that the things that we did when we were kids, the things that we were passionate about, or that we just really had this like crazy desire that nobody else in our family or our friends had, that's what we end up doing for our job or for our ministry or for the way we serve God. So I love learning about that and different people's story, and how like God put something in you to create visuals, to make crazy music, to ad lib over stuff. And now that's what you do as your job. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. I mean, it's such a privilege. When I think back on my life, it almost feels like everything that I've experienced has led me to this spot,
Yeah.
So it's cool how God orchestrates all these little moments and all these little, what feels so random at the time comes together to tell the story that God is writing of your life.
Absolutely. It's like that verse that says he'll give you the desires of your heart. Was that Psalm 37? And I think when I first read that, I thought, okay, God will give me the things that I desire. Like if I desire this and this, he's going to give it to me. But really, I think what that verse is telling us is that God's going to give us the desires. He plants those wants, those needs, those passions inside us, and that's how he made us. And I think that's so cool that God does that and then brings it to fruition later in life.
Yeah, I love that.
Well, Sheik, this has been so fun. I love talking with you. And I love that my listeners are going to get to check out your music because it's so fun. It'll be a great thing to listen to over the summer as they're hanging out by the pool, right?
Yeah. And, I mean, I might be waking up at 4 a.m. in the next couple of weeks and adding some more stuff. So
we'll look for that for sure.
Not every week, not
every day.
Not on a weekly basis, but every now and again.
All right. Well, we'll hold you to that because I think you need to keep creating music. It's good stuff. Where can our listeners find out about your music?
Okay. So you can look for Sheik Mozart, SheikMozart, on Spotify, Apple Music, Pandora, everywhere that music is available. And that really is the best way. You can also go to sheikmozart.com and all the links are there.
Yeah, that's awesome. And can we just talk about the fact that you have a really cool name for making music?
Oh, thank you.
Mozart, come on.
Yeah.
Well, this is so fun. And I'm so glad you're on the show today. Before I let you go, I always ask my guests to tell me a memory from when they were a kid. So do you have a memory you want to share to close us out?
Oh, I have so many memories. I think for whatever reason, what jumped into my head is that when I first moved to the US from Brazil, I was 6 years old. It was 2004. Just kidding. It was in the late 80s. And there was a spot in town. I grew up in South Florida, in Fort Lauderdale. And we had this flea market in town that was like more than a flea market. It was like a flea market / amusement park.
Okay.
And inside there was this big building. Inside the building there was a circus that would perform like several times a day.
Whoa.
And all that. And there was an arcade, it was huge. But my favorite thing about it was there was this pizza that was sold in like the food court area. And it had eggs on it, like little bits of eggs.
Okay.
And I loved it. And for whatever reason, that's what I wanted to share. I love that egg pizza. And it just makes me wonder why we don't do that more.
Yeah. Is that flea market still there?
It is, but in kind of a much rougher shape than it was 30, 35 years ago.
Interesting. I love that you shared all of that to bring us to the egg pizza.
Why don't we eat that? Why don't we put eggs on pizza? Why don't I put eggs on pizza?
Now, I've had like breakfast pizza before. Have you they have that in like the frozen food section at Walmart and stuff like that, where it's like pizza dough, but it's got cheese and eggs and sausage and all that good stuff.
Yeah, maybe there's like a whole world that I moved away from that maybe I need to explore again, because I'm a big black olives. I put black olives on my pizza.
Okay.
Every now and again, I'll drop some anchovies on it.
Okay.
People don't like anchovies. I respect that, but I love anchovies.
Okay. Now, was this egg pizza, was it like a Brazilian thing or was it like
No, it was like New York style, but they would just drop these little pieces of eggs and it was perfect. It was the perfect pizza. And it's weird that I experienced that level of perfection as a kid. And then all my life since I've been looking for it again.
And you can't find it. Can you make it? Have you ever tried to make it?
I think I might try. I think or maybe I'll call Pizza Hut and just say like, hey, I have a funny request. And my Pizza Hut is like right next door to Publix, which is a chain of supermarkets here.
Uh-huh.
So I feel like if they don't have it, I'll be like, hey, just go down to Publix next door.
Right next door. No problem.
Yeah, easy.
Throw some eggs on it.
Throw some eggs on it.
I love that.
Call it the Sheik.
There you go. The Mozart pizza.
That
sounds really like musical and official. I think they should do that. We're calling on Pizza Hut right now. Make this a thing.
Make it a thing. Hashtag.
Well, Sheik, thank you so much for being on the show today. This was so fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
That's so interesting. Have you ever had egg on your pizza? I bet that tastes delicious. I like eggs, so I think I would enjoy it. I love that as a kid, Sheik started learning to create and design just by tinkering around with a graphic design software. And really, this desire was birthed in him to be creative and love music and animation and video and all those different things at a very young age. His mom was a huge fan of kids' choir music. And so he always had that passion for kids' Bible songs and how it created a space for him to interact with the Bible in a fun way. And that's so true. I love how those songs can do that for all of us. I love Sheik's perspective on how there really needs to be a balance between those songs that help kids worship God and experience his presence, which we see a lot today in the church, and those are great and wonderful. But we also need some of those Bible songs that are going to help kids remember important things about the Bible and interact in a fun way. So I think that's great to have both or to listen to both as a family. Well, if you'd like to learn more about Sheik and his music, you can follow him on social media, Sheik Mozart on Instagram, and you can find lots of good information there about his music and all the fun things that he is doing with church visuals. Well, now it's time for the kids only segment. This is the part of the show where you get to be on the podcast. And since it's the last episode for this season, I've asked my friend Evie to quote this verse from Psalm 37.
Psalm 37, 4 through 5. Take delight in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Commit your way to the Lord, trust in him, and he will do this.
Yes, it is so important to trust in the Lord. Thank you, Evie. Hey, if you would like to be on the next season of the Collide Kids podcast and share your favorite Bible verse or joke or song you like to sing, or maybe you have a question you want to put out there that I could answer, or maybe one of my guests could answer, just go to my website, collidekidspodcast.com, and click the tab at the top that says Kids Only. You can record it right there. It's really easy to do. Or you can send it to me through my social media. I'm on Facebook at the Collide Kids Podcast or on Instagram at Collide Kids Pod. And I would love for you to follow me there. By the way, if you do go to my website, there will be a little pop-up window that invites you to be a part of our monthly newsletter. This is a monthly newsletter, not weekly, I promise. I won't send them to you all the time, but it gives you some insight into guests that are coming up, new things that are happening, and some fun family content that I know you will enjoy. So I'd love for you to sign up for that. If you'd like to support the podcast, especially on this time of break and Sabbath, I would appreciate your prayers as we pause and reflect and spend some time seeking the Lord and figuring out what we're doing next. I would also appreciate for you to leave a rating and a review on any of the episodes you listen to. When you do that, it really does help other people find out about the show. You can also share episodes with your friends and family and let them know which ones you enjoyed on the last car trip you went on, or the last plane ride, or the last family time you spent together where you just wanted to listen to a podcast. You can tell everyone why you chose the Collide Kids podcast. Well, I am so grateful that you have listened today, and I hope you have a fantastic summer. I hope you spend some time looking through some other episodes. There's lots to choose from. And if you follow me on social media, I will give some tips and recommendations on some episodes for you to check out. So be sure to follow me on my social media so you can hear more about that. And in case no one has told you today, I would love to be the first to remind you that God loves you so much. Thanks for listening. See you in August.
You don't have to go very far looking for bad news because somehow it just finds you. So finding peace in the chaos can be really difficult, but it doesn't have to be because the River mobile app exists. The River is a Christian music radio station dedicated to playing music to help you get through life's toughest moments or life's happiest moments and everywhere in between. And all from artists who love Jesus and are real people just like you. Listening is easy. You can download it wherever you get apps from. Just search 1049 The River or listen online at riverradio.com. And know that The River is proud to partner with the Collide Kids podcast.